Hello, Dr. Miller coming to you again with Rob Landis. This is the fourth, I don't know if I'll say final, we may have some other things to talk to, but the fourth in a series of increasing your health naturally through things that you can do at home, supplementations you can take, but we haven't really talked about supplementations. But we're going to talk to you a little bit about supplementation today. So if you're with us for this fourth go, congratulations, you've stayed with us and you get to get some information from Rob today about supplementation. The reason we haven't talked about supplementation yet is because supplementation is the last thing that we do as we do all these other things, or in conjunction with these other things. It doesn't be the last thing. But the supplements are to supplement, and it's to supplement good behaviors. So we want you to be having good behaviors along with the supplementation. So we didn't want to do supplementations. You guys get that information and then just check out for the rest of it, because all the other stuff is super important.
That's right.
Before we get started, this is not meant to diagnose or treat any type of disease. So if you hear any information that we're going to discuss with you today, follow up with your medical doctor or contact my office or contact Rob. We'll talk to you specifically about your situation and talk to you, help you get the right information for your particular case. So we're talking about comorbidities. In the first episode, we talked about comorbidities so much that my staff is teasing me about saying comorbidities. So if you go back to our first episode and count the amount of times that I say comorbidities, Rob will have a little gift for you from Good Life, and I'll have a little gift. You just post on that first video of Facebook the number of times. They've already counted them. They know how many. So just put the number down there on that first Facebook video. We'll have a drawing, and then we'll contact person for the prizes. So anyway, there's a little bit of that. So along with all the things that we talked about, exercise, sleep, nutrition, we're going to talk a little bit about supplementation today. And what we're not going to talk about is we're not going to talk about multivitamin. I will say, as far as a multivitamin, you want a good quality multivitamin, but for us to talk about a multivitamin, the list of components on that multivitamin would be 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 3 days talking about all that. So just know that we want a good quality multivitamin, and I'm not talking about a box chain multivitamin. Okay, I'm talking about a good multivitamin. I'm going to speak to that in a little bit. But there's three things along with that we want to talk to you about that you may not have heard about. You may have, but some things that help with overall health. And again, it's these people with comorbidities that are having issues with this certain pandemic. So we want to help you with some of those comorbidities. Help to eliminate some of those comorbidities, or help to manage those if you're in a situation that some of those can't be taken care of. Help to manage those to give us our best chance, not just that the virus is going around, but overall health, because these comorbidities can kill you as well. And I think I'm getting up on the total of comorbidities in this video as well. So the first thing I want Rob to talk to you about in conjunction with that multivitamin is omega-3. Okay. So talk to the audience a little bit about the importance of omega-3.
Sure. So in our culture, we don't eat the adequate amounts of omega-3 fatty acids. So fats are broken up into different categories, and they give them a number. In our culture, we eat more inflammatory fats. The omega-6 is primarily. And so your omega-3 to 6 ratio, to be ideal, needs to be closer to 1 to 1. We don't even get close in our culture. Sometimes it's double digits in the 6 and 1 on the 3. And so the omega-3 fats, and so think of cold water fish, certain nuts and seeds, olive oil, those things are really helpful for decreasing inflammation. And so if we think about this cytokine storm that a lot of people know about, a lot of people didn't know about cytokines before all this talk of the virus went around. It's an inflammatory response, involves great amounts of these cytokines that are very inflammatory. And so omega-3 fatty acids are helpful for lowering that level of inflammation in our body and potentially helping with this the cytokine overproduction.
Right. So I've actually heard some research that shows that that ratio can't even be 11 to 1. Omega-6 is
here. That's what we are.
Yeah. Omega. So omega-6 is, again, if you go back to the proper diet, if you're eating all of the God's food, all of the fresh vegetables, all of the organic type of foods, you're going to eliminate some of those omega-6s. So when we're supplementing with omega-3s, and eliminating those omega-6s. That's the first time I've heard anybody other than myself talk about the ratio. They just talk about omega-3s, but they don't talk about the omega-6s. And a lot of times you'll have a supplement that has omega-6s in it with the omega-3s. It doesn't really help because you're just keeping that ratio the same. So again, omega-3s help to reduce inflammation. Inflammation drives disease processes. Yeah. So the more we can reduce that inflammatory response, better off we are on disease processes as a whole.
Absolutely. Correct? And there's so many other functions. We're just being really specific about, but I mean, for brain health, omega-3s are so important. They're imperative. Your head is made primarily of fat, right?
That's a horrible thing.
Your fat head.
It's a horrible thing.
Yeah, so we need those things. We've got to have it for proper function of our brain.
So,
among lots of other things.
Yes, so omega-3, multivitamin, omega-3. And I will also say with the omega-3, it's important to do a multivitamin because you also want an antioxidant along with that for other reasons, but we won't get into that. So multivitamin and omega-3. The one thing that we are hearing a little bit about, finally, fortunately, I mean, we've been hearing about it forever, but everybody else has been hearing about it now, is vitamin D3.
Yes.
Well, we're hearing about vitamin D. It should be vitamin D3. So talk to me a little bit about vitamin D3.
Yeah, so the first thing to remember is we do produce our own vitamin D3. Humans are capable of that. And it's produced with sun exposure. But at this latitude that we are, as we move into the fall, and we're covered up more, I'm going to have a long sleeve shirt on today, is we're not making as much. So in the summertime, this information that we're giving might not be as relevant as it is today at this perfect time, because as we move into this time, we're not getting that exposure, we're not making it as much. And just as an aside to that, when you sunbathe or swim or take a shower right after sun exposure, you wash away the oils that are rich in D3 that your body needs to resorb over time. It takes several hours to do that, but we're capable of making about 10,000 IU in a 20 to 30 minute brief sun exposure in the summertime. But this time of the year, we're not. And so that's the first thing. Number two, D3 is fat soluble. So if you're already supplementing with vitamin D3, please take it with a meal, preferably a fatty meal. Otherwise, you're not going to be absorbing very much of it. So as far as the research, we know that vitamin D3 status is important for immune system health. In children given 1,200 IU a day with a meal, they had a 40% reduction in flu compared to the control group that had none. Now this just is influenza, but we know there's a lot of overlap with COVID. And the all-cause mortality, specifically to this virus with vitamin D3, the advancement from admission to the ICU to mortality, to death, is significantly less than if you don't have optimal vitamin D3 status. And Dr. Miller is going to talk about testing it in a little bit, and you'll probably tell him the ideal levels that you would like him to.
Well, we're going to leave that with a medical doctor because
that's true.
So first of all, we want to make sure that we're not overdoing the vitamin D3. So we recommend that you talk to your medical doctor. It's a very simple blood test. They will come up with the levels in your blood, and there is a range that they'll discuss with you. But more importantly than getting too much of the vitamin D3, you may be basement level, way low than what a normal recommendation of vitamin D3 would bring you up to. So we want to see what that level is so we can get you to that optimal range. Not necessarily going too high, but if you're super, super low, we may actually have to have some medical intervention to get that level up to where we can maintain it at that point in time.
Exactly.
So anyway, medical doctor can help you out with that. Now, new supplementation, in light of everything that's been going on in the last couple of years, is some research that's come out on quercetin and zinc.
Yes.
Okay. So talk to them a little bit about quercetin and zinc and their relationship to one another.
Sure. And so just so that we're being consistent, we encourage you to eat your nutrition. So on the omega-3s, cold water fish twice a week, that's sardines, salmon, etc. There are some nuts and seeds that are high in that as well. With quercetin's high in particular in onions. There's lots of other vegetables and fruits that it's also high in. But quercetin is really interesting. People in Southern Illinois have known about it for a long time because it's a natural antihistamine. So some people use it, to decrease their response allergy-wise. With this virus, it's really interesting. It has three cool functions. It kind of increases the activity of your immune system with the white blood cells as far as their vigorousness, which they respond. And then it blocks is it all right if I share a little bit specific?
Yeah, go ahead.
So quercetin actually blocks or makes it more difficult for that spike protein to attach to that ACE2 receptor in the cell. So it actually challenges that initial linkage. And then quercetin is really interesting. You might have heard of this fancy word called Zinc Ionophore. Well, that's just a simple way of saying it helps zinc get into the cell. And so that's where zinc comes in. Zinc helps to decrease replication of a virus. So a virus, when it gets in, it has to break apart, multiply until you have an infection, right? So there's small amounts of viruses all over us right now. I have strep in my throat, but I'm not infected, right? It's not colonized. And so zinc is helpful for controlling that replication.
Okay, very good. So we gave you a few health. Is there any other that you want to touch on?
Well, I did want to speak specifically to a COVID type virus. So SARS-CoV-1, this was back, I think it was the bird flu, I can't remember what it's called. Actually in 2010, it was shown to decrease the replication in the lab. So this is a lab study, but it was shown to reduce the incidence of colds as well that were associated with that. So we have some evidence that zinc actually in the lab and in humans is helpful for immune system function specific to this virus.
And what we're talking to you about are things that are sold in your store that you can get very, very easily. No side effects. Helps everybody live healthier regardless of its effects
Right.
of what's going on with the pandemic. And it's those healthier people that are doing better when infected with this COVID-19. One thing that I would like to say before we close this fourth episode is when you're picking out a supplement, what I've often told my patients is the cheapest supplement that you can buy is the most expensive you can have. Because these cheaper vitamins or supplements have fillers in them, and there's not a lot of regulation that goes on to make sure that they're putting in there what they say they're putting in. So you really want a good quality supplement, like what you would get from Good Life, like what you would get physician's grade type of vitamins. So this isn't the time to kind of skimp on putting forth the money to get a good quality product. If we're trying to be healthy and save your life, we want to make sure we're putting stuff in there that's saying that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
That's right.
So that's one thing that I would absolutely recommend. I do all of my supplementation with Rob. You can feel confident that he will steer you in the right direction. If you have any questions for my office, please give us a call. If you have any questions for Rob or anybody at his office, all that information will be in this link as well. Rob, it's been great working with you. Hopefully we can come back and share some more information. It's been fun, which I knew that it would be.
I liked it.
And we'll talk to you guys later. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you do enjoy it, please share it on your Facebook so we can get as many people to hear this information as possible. Thank you guys. Have a great day.